Hello everyone, welcome back to Blooms and Bicycles. Hope you're having a lovely November so far. Once Mother Nature's summer abundances have softly whittled away, apple trees stand with their proudly poised branches laden with clusters of fruit. Ready for the picking at the prospect of apple crumbles and pies, wicker baskets on our bicycles come into their own once more, ready for any foraging adventures. So in comes the season for the sweet crunch of toffee apples and aptly named cinder toffee, making the perfect treats to have around the blazing bonfires, which when in full roaring flame, become mesmerising as its embers that glow like the leaves on the trees, drift upwards into the night sky to blend with the stars. So before we start today, I just wanted to say thank you so much from Roberta and I to everybody who's subscribed and for all of your lovely comments. It's been really encouraging for us navigating through this journey, and to see that so many of you are enjoying our content really means a lot to us. Today our water vessels are already prepared with the water and the flower feed. However, if you would like to learn how to prepare your flowers, you can find our flower care video via the link in the description box below. So in today's video, we'll be sharing with you how to construct the November Embers letterbox flowers. So to begin with, we'll start by constructing our grid using the most sturdy of foliage stems as we always do. And in this collection today, that consists of the Copper Beech leaves, which are these, the Salal, the Mimosa, and the oak leaves, which are all in these very auburney tones. So to begin with, if we use our Copper Beech, as there often is, we have a number of offshoots which we can take advantage of. So we'll trim off by cutting at a V, just above the joint of whichever one you're wanting to split away from the main stem. So now we have two pieces, which actually have a lovely natural lean of one sloping off to the left and one to the right. So in terms of that irregular natural balance we go for, already we have two stems that will help with that. So if we just continue doing so with the rest of our stems, so we'll cut, I think, just above this stem here. So now we have another two pieces. So just to also note, in this collection, with each letterbox piece, the Copper Beech will come in three different colours. The first one will be in a golden tone, the second one will be in a ruby red, and the third will be in an amber. So this is the amber one. And now to split it off, again, we look for the halfway point and trim away just above the offshoot where we're looking to split it. And so all our Copper Beech leaves are now done, leaving just the Mimosa. So with our first piece here today, relatively speaking to the size of our water vessel, this one's okay. However, this one is very long, and by all means you can leave it like that if you want. If you want it to look wild and free, go for it. I think today though what we'll do is we'll split this off and we'll trim it into two to give us three pieces of mimosa to work with, because three is always a magic number. So we just gently push away the branches to reveal the main stem, and around the halfway point, just cut. So these are very small in comparison, so these will be nice to feature at the very front or around the opening of the water vessel later on. And then finally for our oak leaf, which actually when you stand it up next to the beech, it's actually a slightly taller size. However, this might work really nice because we always look for that natural fan shape, which is created by going from taller at the back to shorter at the front. So this might make a nice focal point towards the back. So now it's just a case of crisscrossing each of the stems, but making sure that still no leaves do go under the water level. So these are preserved leaves, actually, just to say, so they are long lasting. And you can put them to use in other ways once your flower display is finished, if you like. So if you're quite creative or have creative leanings and you fancy making a nice autumnal wreath later on, you can definitely repurpose these leaves and use these as the material to build out the base of your wreath. Or you could even just have them as stems in a bud vase just on their own, because in their own right, given how beautiful the colour and the detail in these leaves are, they actually make a real statement just on their own. And especially when the natural light passes through them, they're like pieces in a stained glass window. So you don't have to be as fussy as me. However, if in your mind's eye you do envisage where you want the branches to be, just keep playing around with them until they sit where you'd like them to be. So if you are like me and a bit fussy, you can just keep hold of branches and thread other ones in between until it's built out so much that they do just stand up in their own right. And we'll just introduce maybe the Salal in the central area. Twirl that around slightly. And you can also manipulate the leaves to wrap around other branches if this is what it takes to support things in the way you want them to be. And for our final piece of Copper Beech, we'll put this towards the back so that there is a 360-degree aspect to our design. So next to take our oak, which has a lovely coppery undertone and weaves in between these tones of green, so it graduates quite naturally then from all of the colours in the Copper Beech to the tones that are now in the oak stem. So just taking away a slight amount off the bottom of the oak just to make sure it can take up water. Again, manipulate the leaves as much as you like so that it displays itself in the way you want it to be. And just to also say at this point, see how we've really used to its advantage the characteristics of each variety up to now. So the Copper Beech's branches are very small, so it makes them very long and sweeping with lots of movement. And we've used those to create them tumbling side pieces and front pieces. And then along comes the oak stem, which is very rigid and upright, centered right in the middle of the vase to create that central point that the rest of the fan shape cascades out from. And then finally to introduce the Mimosa. So between the Salal tips, the greeny tones of the oak, and now these final stems, we've counterbalanced the fiery tones of the beech with some more rustic natural greens. Just because it creates a bit of variety from the Autumn Sunrise collection, and also just because the variation of colours in this particular design helps to keep the eye moving throughout. So taking away any leaves as we do, always just gradually add them in where you see fit. So one's gone to the left, so here we'll add one off to the right. And naturally some stems will start to move as you introduce more. This is fine, and nature, I guess, never stands still. So although you might be a bit fussy, it might just be worth its while to leave it be and allow it to go in the way that it needs to go. And then just find and avoid in your grid, introduce the final piece of Mimosa. So next we'll take our heavyweight stems. In this collection, this is a large piece of cinnamon, which swirls beautifully all the way through, and our apple stem. So we really want to make a focal point of these two pieces because these together are so synonymous of this time of year and all of the aromas that work their way around the house from what's cooking in the kitchen, and just brings a bit of coziness and celebration into the home, making full use of what this time of year is all about. So naturally that cinnamon stem has veered off to the right on the opposite side of the oak. So positioning this apple in a way that creates some symmetry actually works really well in this case. And the good thing as well about introducing your heavyweight stems is by allowing them to be anchored into the grid now means that the flowers which are softer and longer, more flexible and easy to move, they can just be positioned very easily now around these heavyweight stems to limit any damage. So next to take our caramel coloured flowers. In this collection they are the Eustoma, this beautiful variety of chrysanthemum, which on the underneath of the petals is actually fuchsia pink. So in terms of graduation from one variety of stem to another, it just allows for that to happen so beautifully. And as you can see, this is opening up in front of our eyes. These chrysanthemums will come to you with a protective net around the flower bud. We do leave these on for a reason, because it allows them to be protected on their journey to you, and because it's only at the very last minute you want to take these nets off, because they're so delicate, each of these petals. So again, another star of the show. I know there's so many in this collection, it's hard to say which is not. It's just so hard not to get excited at this time of year with floristry. So that's the first caramel splash of colour. The next one is introduced with this Eustoma. As we always say, you can leave this in place just as it is, or you can split it off into two different stems by cutting away at the main shoot on an angle just after the first stem. And then again you can do the same, repeating the same process by cutting other shoots away further up. You don't have to do this, however if you choose to, it just allows for a greater distribution of colour and flower throughout your design. And there is also something to be said about small wispy stems of flowers. It does create a much busier design, however there's something very delicate and fragile about it which is hard to explain, but when you see it, it just makes sense. So we're going to put one flower in the spout of the teapot, and then keeping the height of this flower stem, we'll add this at the back. So naturally this is starting to sit on that knitted layer of the grid, so this is where it really starts to come into its own with a natural design to have a grid in place underneath the water. So now to take our darker toffee coloured flowers. So again, the natural height of this carnation will be worthwhile using alongside the tall stem of Eustoma already introduced. I think with this rose, we will add that in to sit in the grid just above the chrysanthemum. Perfect. And next to take our apple toned roses, which graduate from a deep red to the hues of a pink lady. And I don't know whether you just want to come in and take some close-ups of this to show how luminescent the pink is against the lime green in the petals. So in this teapot letterbox design, you'll receive 3 of these pink lady coloured roses. Again, 3 being the magic number. So we'll create an irregular triangle shape with 3 varying points of height. So one will be very tall and positioned towards the back. Another one will be a few inches shorter and positioned midway. And the other one even shorter again, positioned at the very front. First of all, to introduce the one at the back, let's just come around the front to see how we're looking. So this might be quite nice alongside the greeny tones of the oak, just to create some real contrast to the earthy tones behind. So what we've done is, because these flowers are such a showstopper, if we left them at the same height as the other varieties included so far, it might make the design feel too busy because it would mean that the eye doesn't know where to go. Therefore, by reducing the height of these roses quite drastically in comparison to the other stems running throughout, It just allows each of those enough space to shine, and then by the time the eye is guided down to this rose eventually anyway, it will shine in its own way all the same. And now with our deep red roses, again we'll leave one taller and trim one down very much so, and we'll introduce this at the very front to sit underneath the chrysanthemum. So now just to introduce our deep purple toned Eustomas and Astrantia flowers, which are very much in the deep purple hues you see in nature at this time of year. Making full use of the tall stem on the Astrantias, we'll position those towards the back as these complement the deep red rose very nicely, and trimming away the different flower stems from the main shoot with the Eustoma. We'll create lots of different purple points of interest. So given how full and heavy some of these flower stems are, trimming away the Eustoma flowers into smaller, more individual pieces just helps again create some balance between wispy and delicate and more substantial statement pieces. And things become so easy to add in the more the grid is used. As you can see, not much effort needs to be put in to positioning things, as they just naturally hold their own form. And then finally, just to add a touch of Barbie, we have these beautiful different cerise coloured roses, which offer some graduation from the cerise which we find on the inside of the chrysanthemum petals and running throughout this pink lady toned rose here. So our design is getting very full now. However, we do still have a little bit of space at the back. So again, just creating triangles and working to the magic of 3. We've now positioned the 3 cerise stems in a central upright position towards the back, and then sweeping off to the left as much as it will now sweep off to the right. And just because roses are such a thirsty flower, introducing these into the grid, do be sure to make sure they fall under the water line. And then just finding the one final void for our Eustoma. So just to give things one final glance over, just to see if any final tweaks need to be made. And actually at this point, I think what we can do is maybe just switch the position of this Copper Beech so you have greater distribution of green amongst the reds, and then move this into where is currently a void around the cinnamon stick. So to do that, we will just take our scissors and we'll snip as far down as we possibly can, and then because these leaves are actually naturally preserved, they don't have to sit in the water, which means that we can just weave this in to fit around the design without forcing it into the water and disrupting any of the other flowers. What's also very nice is how flexible the branches are on these stems of foliage. So what I've just done there is wrapped it around the cinnamon stick, which actually looks quite nice in its own little way. Another point of interest. And just to say at this point as well, although we have lots of the autumnal tones, what really brings it together are the pops of unexpected colour coming through from the Barbie pink and the appley green tones. Always creating designs which introduce an unexpected colour or an unexpected twist with textures and tones always leads the eye around the design continually, and the more you can do that, the more successfully you've created a display. So there you have it. Enjoy the rest of your November. I hope you enjoy arranging your letterbox flowers as much as we have today, and I'll see you next time. Can't wait.